Hey everyone, I'm Dave Hardy. Today I'm going to share my spicy crab dip recipe that's always been a big hit every time I put it on the menu. It's incredibly easy to put together and it can be served either hot or cold. So no more debating on what you're going to bring to your next party or gathering. This is it. I do this recipe in two parts. First, I whip up a sauce. In a large bowl, combine 1 cup of mayo with a half a cup of sour cream, 3 tablespoons of sriracha, 8 ounces of cream cheese, a teaspoon of kosher salt, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and a half teaspoon of black pepper. So in the restaurant, we'd mix this in large batches, so using a food processor was key to getting that silky smooth texture of the sauce. But with a small batch like this, if you don't have a food processor or don't feel like going through the trouble of pulling yours out and putting it all together, then mixing it in a bowl is fine. Just be sure that you pull out the cream cheese a little early so it has time to come up to room temperature, and that way it's easier to mix, and then use the side of your bowl to break it up. Then pull out a whisk and give it an old-fashioned beating. Now on to part 2 of the recipe, the add-ins. Starting with crab. My go-to is lump crab because it's sweet, delicate, and almost buttery. Doesn't it look like this says Gab? Look at it now. Anyway, you'll need a can opener. Any variety of crab will work for this recipe. In fact, king crab would be amazing if you don't mind spending the extra dough. Dungeness crab or snow crab are cheaper options, but the flavor isn't as good in my opinion. This has a lot of extra liquid that needs to be drained. I would normally press this out like tuna fish, but my new can opener prevents that. So it's okay to be creative. Place that into the bowl with the sauce. Then peel and dice enough shallot to equal half a cup. And red onion also works well if you don't have shallots. I've definitely used it in the past. Put that into your bowl. Then shave 6 green onions, which should be about a half a cup. Into the bowl, and finally take 1 large jalapeno. Remove the stem and seeds, and dice very small. Add it with everything else, and very gently fold it into your sauce. You want to keep those large pieces of crab intact as best as possible, so that you occasionally get a nice treat when you're dipping. So if you choose to serve this cold, pop it in a vessel of your choice and it's done. While it tastes great like this, a lot of people prefer it served hot, or at least warm. So here's how we always did it in the restaurant. Spoon it into an oven-proof dish that you like. Combine equal parts Parmesan and panko breadcrumbs. It doesn't have to be the fresh stuff, so whatever you have. Stir it together and sprinkle on top. While we're here, let me show you another great use for this dip. Crab stuffed jalapenos. There's not much to it. Cut some jalapenos in half, use a spoon to cut out the seeds, spoon some crab dip onto each one, top it with some Parmesan breadcrumbs, and bake. So both the jalapenos and the crab dip take about the same amount of time to cook, which is about 15 minutes at 450 degrees. You'll know it's done when the dip is bubbling on the sides and the crust is golden brown. While that's cooking, let's talk about the accessories you're going to need to move that creamy crabby dip from its vessel to your mouth. There's a ton of possibilities, but I'm going to stick to 3 so we don't lose sight of the main focus. The crab dip. That's what we're doing.
The crab dip.
So first I'm going to go with some mini sweet peppers for a fresh vegetal crunch. Some nice crackers for a crispy textural delight. And lastly, a nice Greek-style pita. Now, I could go to the store and buy a pack of pita and cut it up, put it on a plate, and that's just fine if that's what you want to do. But that wouldn't make a very good video, now would it? And once you try homemade pita, and you see how easy it is and how great it tastes, you'll never want to buy store-bought again. And the recipe is easy. It only uses 5 ingredients, starting with 7 ounces of warm water. It isn't necessary to do a long pour like this. I just thought it looked cool. It is important for the yeast that the water is between 100 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit, at least in my experiences. Half a tablespoon of yeast goes in and let it sit for 5 minutes to bloom. Then into a large bowl goes 10 ounces of flour, which is roughly 2 cups, 3/4 of a teaspoon of kosher salt, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of sugar, and stir it up. And once your yeast looks all bubbly nice, pour it into your flour mixture along with 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. Stir that until it forms a dough. Then you might want to get in there with your hands until it forms a ball. This is going to be a very soft dough and a little sticky, so don't be afraid to oil your hands up before getting in there. Then drizzle it with more olive oil so that it's fully coated. Cover the bowl and let it rise for 1 hour. It should be doubled in size at this point. Drop it onto your table and portion into 5 equal-sized pieces. They should be about 3 1/4 to 3 1/2 ounces each. And shape them into balls. Remember to be gentle with them so you don't squeeze out all the air that is formed inside. You can shape them by folding them over themselves or by doing this little spinning method. They should have a nice, somewhat smooth top to them. Then roll them out to about 7-inch circles, using as much flour as necessary to prevent stickage. So now you're ready to go. You can put these right into a hot pan and cook them up. But I find that if you brush them with a little bit extra virgin olive oil first, it'll soak up any of that residual flour and they'll taste even better. Just keep in mind that this makes the dough even softer, so it may require a little more finesse. Lay these on a cast iron skillet preheated over medium heat. Let it cook on one side for 45 seconds to a minute. You should notice a bunch of large bubbles forming. That's good. Flip it when the bottom is starting to get a nice color on it. Another 30 to 45 seconds on that side and they're done. Do that for the rest of your dough. As they finish, I'll stack them on a plate to cool before digging in. And to serve, we'll cut these into 6s and lay on the tray. You can absolutely do these a few days ahead of time and keep them in your fridge. You'll just want to warm them in the oven for a minute to soften them up before serving. And to make it pop a little more, I put a little sriracha in a squeeze bottle, add a touch of water to thin it out a tiny bit, and drizzle that over top. And a few of those finely shaved green onions, and that's all you need. And when it's all done, you have yourself a pretty nice crab dip platter that's bound to impress. But that's all I've got for this episode. If you enjoyed this and you'd like to see more content like it, hit that subscribe button and I'll see you next week. But for now, I've got some crab dip to eat. Bye.